as teachers, we just don't have the time or capacity to differentiate all of our lessons, all of our assessments for every individual student. And at the rate things are going, it's going to get worse, and we just don't have the support in schools that we need. So, I think about ways to differentiate, and oftentimes that requires another body, right? It requires an EA or another teacher or other support, because in a class of 30, no matter how well you differentiate an assignment or modify it or whatever you want to do, there's still going to be kids who need more support. Like that's just the reality of it. And classroom teachers are just kind of left to figure it out themselves. We get told at the start of a semester, these are the kids you have, X, Y, and Z, and this kid needs this, and this kid needs this, and this kid needs this. Oh, and you have this kid, and he comes sometimes, not all the time, and you need to accommodate that. And, you get this list of like, these are all the things you have to deal with this semester. And we're just kind of, we're like left to figure out what that looks like. And so I don't think that, or I do think that there are a lot of limitations on our ability to differentiate well. That being said, I do think that there are good teaching practices that support more learners. So I might not have time to differentiate a lesson or whatever for all students, but I can make sure that I have tools available to every student to support the ones who need it. So as an example, I might provide graphic organizers. I might make a checklist to make sure that for my own brain that I've checked in with all the kids at some point that day. Or, frequent conferencing, flexible due dates, flexible ways of meeting outcomes, and differentiation, I think, is one thing that you also just get better at as time goes on. It's not something I think is realistic to expect of brand new teachers to be able to differentiate and to adapt things for all students. I think about right now, I have a B10 class, ELA B10, and I have my regular students, I have a couple modified students, and then I have a couple functionally integrated students. And so in terms of planning and doing differentiation for them, it's, I start by planning the lesson for typical students, whatever that means, but for the typical students. And then I take it and modify it for my modified students. So, as an example, right now we're working on Macbeth in B10, and I have, some question responses, like booklet thing for them to be working on. And so I went through that booklet and just like blacked out all the stuff I didn't want the B11 students to have to do. And then beyond that, my two functionally integrated students, I just sit down with them individually and say, okay, like highlight the ones I want them to try, basically. And so it's like the same assessment. I've just kind of like taken pieces out or reworded things for students to support their learning. But I don't know, I think, differentiation is tough. And I feel like I've gotten better at it over time as I've understood my outcomes better. Because I think that that's when you first teach a class, you're just like going day to day, figuring out how to get to the end of it, right? It's like, okay, these are the outcomes I'm working on this week. I'm going to figure that out. Once you've taught the class a couple times full through, you kind of see the bigger picture of like how everything connects. And so maybe in this assignment, you don't actually need everybody to do that piece of the assignment. You just need them to do the stuff that's going to help them with the next part and so on and so forth. But I think it's very challenging, but also I don't think it needs to be thought of as this like differentiation isn't this big extra thing on our to-do list, right? It's something that has to be added to lessons. And it's something you need to do to support students' understanding. And if you can do it in a way that supports all students' understanding better, then great, right? If you're just like thinking about that right from the get-go in terms of your planning.